Hey guys, tonight we slip into the driver's seat of a patrol car on a desolate stretch of American highway, where the only lights for miles are the ones flashing in the rearview mirror of a man with a secret. We're going to ride alongside an officer and his canine partner as a stop for a simple broken taillight spirals into a life-or-death confrontation under a cold, starless sky. This is one of those stories that reminds you that the most profound danger often wears a mask of the mundane. It's a quiet night until it isn't. And a word of warning, you probably shouldn't be listening to this alone. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The hum is a constant companion. It's the sound of the engine, the tires on worn asphalt, the overworked air conditioner fighting a losing battle against the residual Nevada heat. For Officer Dave Miller, it's the soundtrack to another Tuesday night bleeding into Wednesday morning. Out here on this lonely ribbon of I-80, the world shrinks to the twin beams of his headlights cutting through an ocean of darkness. Beside him in the passenger seat, Riggs, his 4-year-old Belgian Malinois, is a silent statue of coiled muscle and black fur, his breathing steady and slow. The partnership between them is less about commands and more about a shared current of understanding, a language spoken in the subtle shift of weight or the twitch of an ear. It's 2:13 a.m. when a pair of taillights appears in the distance, a flicker of red in the void. As Miller closes the gap, he sees it. The left taillight on the beat-up, early 2000s sedan is out, a simple, textbook equipment violation. It's the kind of stop that breaks the monotony, a minor infraction that most drivers would handle with a sigh and a promise to get it fixed. Yet something holds Miller's finger back from the radio switch for just a second. The car is doing the speed limit. Exactly. Not a mile over, not a mile under. In his experience, people who drive with that kind of precision are either saints or they're trying very hard to appear that way. It's an act of deliberate normalcy that, ironically, feels anything but normal. This is the heart of a pretextual stop, a concept that keeps defense attorneys and civil liberties groups busy. It's perfectly legal. The Supreme Court case Wren versus United States affirmed it. An officer can use any observed traffic violation, no matter how minor, as a pretext to pull over a vehicle they have a separate, unrelated suspicion about. The broken taillight is the legal key. The driver's rigid adherence to the speed limit is the hunch. Miller doesn't have a hunch so much as a faint prickling sensation on the back of his neck. It's a feeling he's learned not to ignore. Experts still argue whether this officer's intuition is a valid tool or a slippery slope toward biased policing. Is it a sixth sense honed by years of experience, or just a guess dressed up in a uniform? Tonight, Miller isn't interested in the academic debate. He's just a cop on a dark road with a feeling. He flicks on the lights. The sudden explosion of red and blue strobes paints the desert landscape in frantic, silent flashes. The sedan pulls over smoothly, rolling to a stop on the gravel shoulder without any drama. So far, so routine. Miller radios in the stop, giving dispatch the license plate, a standard-issue plate from a neighboring state. As he prepares to step out, he feels a change beside him. Riggs hasn't moved, not in any way a casual observer would notice. But he's no longer a relaxed statue. He's now a very, very still one. His head is canted just a few degrees higher, his ears locked forward, his breathing hitched for a fraction of a second before resuming its steady rhythm. To Miller, it's as loud as a siren. It's the dog's way of saying, "I am paying attention now." Miller approaches the sedan from the passenger side, his flashlight beam cutting a clean cone of light across the interior. The driver, a man in his late 40s with a weathered face and thinning hair, already has his hands on the steering wheel at the 10 and 2 position. His window is down. "Evening, officer," he says, his voice unnervingly pleasant. "Problem?" "Evening, sir," Miller replies, his eyes scanning everything. The empty passenger seat, the clean floorboards, the lack of personal items. "Just letting you know your driver's side tail light is out. License, registration, and proof of insurance, please." The man nods, a practiced, easygoing motion. "Sure thing, it's in the glove box." He moves with a slow, deliberate grace, as if performing for a camera. He hands over the documents. The name is John Price. The address is local, everything checks out, but the details don't quite add up. The man is dressed in a dusty plaid shirt and worn jeans, the uniform of a laborer, but the brand new stiff-looking work boots he's wearing are completely free of scuffs or dirt. Stranger still, as he passed over his license, Miller caught a glimpse of his hands. They were immaculate, with clean, perfectly shaped fingernails, manicured. A working man's outfit with a desk jockey's hands shod in boots that look like they were put on for the very first time an hour ago. It's a small, discordant note in an otherwise flawless performance of normalcy. "So, where are you headed this time of night, Mr. Price?" Miller asks, keeping his tone conversational. "Just coming back from visiting my brother up in Elko, helping him with some drywall work on his new place," Price says, a little too quickly. The answer is plausible, almost rehearsed. It even explains the clothes, but not the hands, not the boots. And it definitely doesn't explain the subtle low hum of energy coming from the canine unit, a hum only Miller can feel. Riggs is still sitting, but his weight has shifted entirely to his front paws. He is spring-loaded, ready. The dog hasn't seen the man's hands or his pristine boots. He hasn't heard the too smooth a story. He is reacting to something entirely different, something in the air.
Miller holds the man's license, the plastic cool against his thumb. "Drywall, huh? Tough work." He shines his light briefly on Price's hands, still resting on the wheel. "You've got a gentle touch for a guy hanging sheetrock." The sarcasm is light, almost undetectable, but it hangs in the air between them. Price's smile tightens by a millimeter. It's the first crack in the veneer. "I wear gloves," he says. The answer is immediate, logical, but it's another line from the script. Miller nods slowly, letting the silence stretch. In a negotiation, the first person to speak often loses. On the side of a highway, it's a way to let a lie suffocate in the open air. "Good pair of gloves. Gotta protect the hands." As Price speaks, a faint breeze drifts from the car's open window, and with it comes a smell. It's not the stale cigarette smoke or cheap air freshener he expects. This is peculiar. It's sharp and chemical, a high, sterile note like bleach or ammonia, but it's undercut by something else, a thick, cloying sweetness, something vaguely organic like overripe fruit or damp earth. The two scents are at war with each other, creating a deeply unsettling combination that makes the hairs on Miller's arms stand up. It's the smell of something clean, trying desperately to cover something that is not. He sees a single pine tree air freshener dangling from the rearview mirror, but in an ironic twist, it's still sealed in its plastic wrapper, a useless prop in this roadside drama. "You spill something in here, Mr. Price?" Miller asks, his tone still casual, but his focus is now razor sharp. He's no longer just a cop writing a ticket. He's an investigator cataloging evidence. Price's eyes dart from Miller's face to the rearview mirror, then back. A flicker of panic. Yeah, some cleaning stuff. Had a bottle of industrial solvent tip over in the back. Smells awful, I know. Been meaning to air it out." The explanation is a waterfall of words. Too much detail. Too much eagerness. He's not just answering a question, he's selling a story. This is where the clock starts ticking louder. The 2015 Supreme Court ruling in Rodriguez versus the United States is a voice in Miller's head. The court decided that an officer can't extend a traffic stop beyond the time it takes to complete the mission of the stop, addressing the traffic violation, unless they develop reasonable suspicion of other criminal activity. Miller's mission is to write a warning for a broken taillight. That takes minutes. Every second he keeps Price here after that point has to be justified. His justification is building. The rigid driving, the rehearsed story, the pristine boots, the manicured hands, the bizarre unripped cellophane on the air freshener, and now this smell. They are individual threads. He needs to weave them into a cable strong enough to hold up in court. And then there's Riggs. The dog is now sitting so far forward his chest is pressed against the dash. A low, guttural whine escapes his throat, a sound of pure, frustrated focus. He isn't looking at Price. He's staring intently at the rear passenger side door of the sedan, as if he can see through the metal. A canine sense of smell is a marvel of biology, thousands of times more sensitive than a human's. This leads to an ongoing debate in courtrooms. How much weight should be given to an officer's personal sense of smell? A defense attorney can easily challenge an officer's testimony. Well, what does suspicious smell like, officer? Can you differentiate the scent of legal industrial solvent from illegal chemical precursors? But a certified canine alert is considered objective, trained evidence of the presence of contraband. Miller knows his own nose just adds another layer. Riggs will be the one to make the legal case. I'm just gonna go back to my vehicle and write you a warning for that light. Miller says, his eyes locked on Price. He watches for the reaction. He's not lying. He will write the warning, but he's omitting the next step. Price gives a tight, relieved nod. It's a classic mistake. The innocent are usually annoyed at the delay. The guilty are relieved at the perceived end of the scrutiny. As Miller walks back to his patrol car, he keeps his head on a swivel, his light playing over the sedan's trunk and back seat. The story isn't just wrong, it's falling apart. Drywall work wouldn't explain the chemical smell. Spilled solvent doesn't account for the sweet, organic undertone. And visiting a brother doesn't explain the sheer, palpable tension radiating from the driver. Back in the driver's seat of his cruiser, he runs the license again. John Price, 48 years old. The dispatcher's voice crackles back a moment later. Driver is clear. No wants, no warrants. Registration is valid. On paper, the man is a ghost, a perfectly average citizen with a clean record. This is another ironic twist. Often the most dangerous people are the ones who have been meticulous enough never to get caught before. They don't have a record because they are good at what they do. Miller looks at his partner. Riggs is now trembling, a slight high-frequency vibration of contained energy. His eyes are fixed, unwavering, on the sedan. The dog knows. Whatever secrets are hiding in that car, they are screaming at him. Miller makes a decision. The collection of odd details, the driver's crumbling lies, and the undeniable intense interest from his canine partner have tipped the scales from a hunch to articulable suspicion. He has enough to prolong the stop. He has enough to take the next step. He picks up his radio. Dispatch, I'm going to conduct an exterior sniff of the vehicle with my canine partner. He puts the radio down, grabs his leash, and looks at Riggs. All right, boy, let's go to work. The click of the leash snapping onto Riggs's collar is a sharp, metallic sound that cuts through the desert quiet. It's the sound of the encounter changing chapters. Miller opens his door and Riggs follows, a fluid shadow of purpose. He moves with the controlled grace of a predator. Miller approaches the sedan again, this time with the dog at his side. Price, who had been visibly relaxing, tenses up immediately. His eyes are wide, fixed on the dog. Sir, for my safety and yours, I'm going to ask you to step out of the vehicle, Miller says, his voice flat and authoritative. There's no more room for pleasantries. Please step back toward the sound of my voice and keep your hands visible. Price hesitates for a second, a flicker of indecision or calculation in his eyes. Then he complies, opening his doors and stepping out. He's taller than Miller expected, wiry and tense. Miller directs him to the front of the patrol car, well away from the sedan, telling him to face away and keep his hands on the hood. He doesn't cuff him, not yet. He doesn't have the grounds. But the proximity to his own car and the clear instructions are a form of control. With the driver secured, Miller turns his full attention to the task at hand. Okay, Riggs, he says, his voice low. Such das Auto. Find the car. It's a command the dog has trained for thousands of times. Riggs needs no further encouragement. He is a guided missile of scent detection. This procedure, the exterior, free air sniff, is a legally elegant maneuver. Based on the 2005 Supreme Court decision in Illinois v. Cabales, a sniff from a trained dog during a lawful stop isn't considered a search. It doesn't violate any reasonable expectation of privacy because a dog is only detecting the air around the car, air that holds no such expectation. It's a loophole in the Fourth Amendment big enough to drive a canine unit through, and it's the cornerstone of roadside drug interdiction. Riggs begins his methodical sweep. Starting from the front driver's side bumper, he moves slowly, his nose twitching, sampling the air in short, sharp bursts. He ignores the lingering smell of hot engine and rubber. He's not looking for car smells, he's hunting for odors that don't belong. He passes the driver's door, his body language unchanged. He continues along the side of the car, past the rear passenger door that had been his focus from inside the cruiser. He seems to linger there for a moment, his tail giving a single, stiff wag, but he moves on. It's a feint, a hint, but not the final answer. He sweeps past the trunk, his interest seemingly fading. Miller watches Price out of the corner of his eye. The man is a statue of tension, his knuckles white where he grips the hood of the cruiser. He's trying to watch the dog without turning his head. Riggs rounds the back bumper and starts up the passenger side. This is where Miller felt the strongest change in the dog's demeanor before. As Riggs gets to the rear passenger door again, he slows, his nose working furiously along the bottom seam. Nothing. He moves on to the front passenger door. Again, he sniffs intently, his breathing now audible, a series of rapid huffing sounds. Still no alert. He continues forward, toward the front of the car. Miller feels a flicker of doubt. Did he misread the signs? Was the dog just reacting to the driver's anxiety? And then it happens. As Riggs' nose passes the front passenger side wheel well, his entire body changes. He slams to a halt, his head snapping down into the side. He shoves his snout deep into the space above the tire, inhaling so deeply his flanks shudder. He pulls back, looks directly at Miller for a split second, as if to confirm, and then explodes. It's not the passive alert, a simple sit and stare, that some drug dogs are trained for. Riggs is a high-drive dog trained for an aggressive, active alert. He barks, a series of sharp, percussive reports that shatter the night. He begins scratching frantically at the plastic fender liner, his claws making a harsh, scraping sound. He bites at the plastic, trying to tear it away. There is no ambiguity. There is no nuance. This is what probable cause looks like. It is loud, furious, and undeniable. The location is utterly bizarre. Not the trunk, not the door panels, not under a seat. The wheel well. It's a place caked in road grime, pebbles, and tar. A place subject to constant vibration and moisture. An almost nonsensical place to hide something valuable or fragile. This oddity is a twist that makes Miller's mind race. Why there? The aggressive alert changes everything. The legal playing field has just been bulldozed and repaved. The reasonable suspicion that allowed Miller to prolong the stop has now ripened into full-blown probable cause, giving him the legal authority to search every inch of that car without a warrant. This is a direct result of the alert, but it's a point that remains a hotbed of legal debate. Critics of canine units often bring up the clever hands effect, the theory that a handler can unconsciously cue their dog to alert on a location they already suspect. Experts still argue whether a dog's alert is a truly objective piece of evidence or if it's a confirmation of the handler's own bias filtered through a furry, four-legged proxy. But in the practical, high-stakes world of policing, a certified canine's aggressive alert is treated as gospel. "Turn around. Place your hands behind your back," Miller commands. His face has crumbled. The mask of calm is gone, replaced by a rictus of raw panic. "This is bullshit. The dog is crazy. He's just scratching at dirt." Miller cuffs him, the metal ratcheting shut with definitive clicks. "You have the right to stay silent," he begins, reading the Miranda rights from memory as he pats him down for weapons. He finds nothing but a wallet and a set of keys. He secures Price in the back of his cruiser and radios for backup, his voice calm and professional, belying the adrenaline now coursing through his veins. "Dispatch, be advised, my canine has given a positive alert on the vehicle. I have one male in custody, requesting a secondary unit." With the driver secured and backup on the way, Miller grabs his high-powered flashlight and turns back to the sedan. The real work is about to begin. He kneels down, the gravel digging into his knee,
and shines his light into the passenger side wheel well. At first, it looks exactly as it should: dirty, greasy, and unremarkable. There are no obvious panels, no loose screws, no telltale signs of tampering. It's just a wheel well. Riggs had tried to tear it apart, but there's nothing to see. The car is guarding its secret well.
The backup unit is still 10 minutes out, an eternity on a dark highway. The strobes of Miller's cruiser continue their silent, frantic dance, illuminating the scene in flashes of red and blue. The only other sounds are the hum of the engines and the occasional impatient whine from Riggs in the back of the K9 unit, frustrated at being taken out of the game. Miller is on his hands and knees, his flashlight beam methodically dissecting the front passenger wheel well. He runs his gloved fingers over every surface, feeling for anything out of the ordinary. The fender liner is just plastic, held in by standard factory clips. The suspension components are coated in a uniform layer of grime. There are no loose wires, no fresh tool marks, no telltale seams. It's perfect. Too perfect. He pushes and pulls on every part he can reach, tapping surfaces and listening for a hollow sound. Nothing. For a moment, he entertains the possibility that Riggs was wrong. It's rare, but it happens. A dog might alert on a residual odor, the ghost of something that was there days or weeks ago. It's a legal phenomenon known as the ghost dope defense. A positive canine alert on a car that turns up empty can sometimes be explained by the scent of contraband that is no longer present, creating a messy legal situation where the officer had probable cause for a search that ultimately yielded no evidence of a current crime. But Riggs's alert wasn't just positive, it was violent. He wasn't just smelling a memory, he was smelling something right there, right now. Trust your dog. It's the first commandment of canine handling. Miller stands up, brushes the gravel from his pants, and reevaluates. The compartment, he's certain it's a compartment, must be electronically operated. A manual latch would leave a physical trace, a cable or a lever. An electronic one could be seamless. He goes back to the driver's side, leans into the car, and begins the tedious process of looking for the switch. This is where smugglers get creative. They use complex sequences, requiring multiple actions to be performed simultaneously. Turn on the headlights, press the rear defroster, and tap the brake pedal twice. Things a normal driver would never do in that specific order. He tries everything. He toggles every switch, presses every button. He activates the wipers, the high beams, the hazard lights. He manipulates the seat controls, the window locks, the mirror adjustments. Nothing. No quiet click of a solenoid, no subtle whir of a motor. Frustration begins to creep in. He knows it's here, he can feel it. He's standing on the threshold of a major bust and he can't find the doorknob. This is a common challenge in interdiction work. The evolution of hidden compartments, or traps, is a constant cat-and-mouse game. As soon as law enforcement identifies one type of trigger, smugglers invent a new, more elaborate one. Experts in the field argue that the sophistication of these traps is a direct reflection of the value of the cargo. The more intricate the hiding spot, the more is at stake. He goes back to the items he took from Price. The wallet is standard, the keys are the real point of interest. A single key for the car's ignition and a plain house key. But then he sees it, tucked away on the ring, almost hidden behind the bulky plastic head of the car key. A tiny metallic fob, no bigger than his thumbnail. It has a single unmarked black button. It doesn't look like a standard remote for a car alarm or a garage door. It's too small, too nondescript. An odd, almost trivial detail that most people would overlook. Miller's heart quickens. He walks to the front of the sedan and presses the button. He hears a faint thunk from inside the car, not the compartment. It's the sound of the glove box door popping open. He lets out a breath of frustration. A remote glove box opener? It's bizarre, but not what he's looking for. He presses it again. It closes. He's about to dismiss it when he remembers the smuggler's trick: sequence. What if the button is only part of the puzzle? He gets back in the driver's seat. He turns the ignition to the accessory position, powering up the electronics without starting the engine. He turns on the radio, then turns the volume dial all the way down. He places his foot on the brake. Holding the brake down, he presses the tiny button on the key fob again. For a second, nothing happens. Then from the front passenger side, he hears a soft, hydraulic hiss. It's a sound that makes the hair on the back of his neck stand up. He gets out of the car, his flashlight beam already aimed at the wheel well. What he sees is a work of art. The entire plastic fender liner has smoothly retracted upward and inward, disappearing into a hidden cavity above the wheel. It didn't pop open or fall down, it slid away like a miniature sci-fi airlock. The engineering is flawless. Where there once was a dirty, unremarkable void, there is now a clean metal-lined box, about the size of a large shoebox, bolted directly to the car's frame. The mechanism is completely invisible when closed. It's one of the most sophisticated traps he has ever seen. But the contents are the final shocking twist. He's expecting bricks of cocaine, bags of meth, or stacks of cash. That's what a trap like this is for. Instead, the box is filled with electronics, not drugs. He sees neatly bundled wires, several small circuit boards, a GPS tracker, and 2 burner phones sitting in custom-cut foam. And in the center of it all, nestled in its own foam cutout, is a single, heavily modified pistol. It's a Glock, but it's been fitted with a long, thick suppressor and an oversized 33-round magazine. This isn't the payload of a drug runner. This is the toolkit for an assassin. The chemical smell suddenly makes a terrifying new kind of sense. It wasn't to cover the scent of drugs for a canine. It was the smell of bleach and other cleaning agents used to meticulously scrub a crime scene or a person of all forensic evidence. The sweet smell... He doesn't want to think about what the sweet smell was. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Price isn't a smuggler. He's a cleaner, a transporter, a facilitator for something far darker. He was either on his way to a job or more likely on his way back. Just as this new, horrifying reality crystallizes in Miller's mind, he hears a sound that doesn't belong. The soft crunch of gravel behind him. He instinctively starts to turn, his hand flying to his own sidearm, but he's too late. A blinding concussive flash erupts from the darkness near the rear of the sedan. The night explodes.
The world dissolves into a maelstrom of white-hot pain and deafening noise. The first shot cracks through the air an instant before Miller feels it. It's a sledgehammer blow to his left shoulder, spinning him around and slamming him against the side of the sedan. The metal groans under his weight. His flashlight clatters to the ground, its beam now painting a frantic, erratic circle on the asphalt. His vision tunnels, the flashing red and blue lights of his own cruiser warping into blurry streaks. He's hit. The thought is strangely distant, an academic observation in the midst of chaos. A second shot rings out, this one high and wild, punching a hole through the sedan's windshield with a sickening pop. Miller, driven by pure instinct, shoves himself off the car and scrambles for cover behind the front wheel, the very spot he was just inspecting. The ground is rough, the gravel digging into his cheek. The sharp, coppery taste of blood fills his mouth. He doesn't know if it's his. He fumbles for his own pistol, his left arm a useless, burning appendage. His fingers, clumsy with shock, finally wrap around the grip. Where did the shooter come from? The question screams in his mind. The scene was secure. Price was in the back of his cruiser. He'd scanned the darkness, seen nothing but desert scrub and highway. It's a classic, devastating miscalculation. He had tunnel vision. He was so focused on the car, on the compartment, on the evidence, that he neglected the most fundamental rule of officer safety: watch your six. The legal concept of +1 liability, where officers are trained to assume every suspect has an unseen partner, is a principle drilled into every cadet. Experts argue endlessly about the line between prudent caution and hypervigilance, but at this moment, the debate is moot. Miller had assumed he was dealing with one man, and that assumption was now trying to kill him. He risks a glance around the tire. In the strobing, intermittent light, he sees a figure, a shadow detaching itself from the deeper shadows behind the sedan. The shooter isn't tall or imposing, just a dark shape holding a pistol. This must be the actual professional, the hitman. Price was just the driver, the support. This explains the odd, jarring detail from the initial encounter. Price had pulled over so smoothly, so compliantly. He wasn't trying to evade a traffic stop. He was trying to lure one. The broken taillight wasn't an unfortunate defect, it was bait. They wanted a lone officer to stop them on a deserted road. The whole encounter was an ambush from the start. Another shot impacts the engine block in front of him, the ricochet winding off into the night. Miller squeezes off 2 rounds in return. The muzzle flash of his own weapon a brief, blinding flower in the dark. It's unaimed, suppressive fire, meant to buy him a precious second. The shooter ducks back, momentarily disappearing. Miller uses the opportunity to try and reassess. His shoulder is on fire, a deep, throbbing agony that makes it hard to breathe. His tactical vest likely stopped the bullet from being fatal, but he can feel warm blood soaking his uniform. He's losing his primary advantage, mobility. Then he remembers Riggs, his partner. His dog is locked in the canine cage in the patrol car, a car that is now directly in the line of fire. A wave of pure, cold dread washes over him, momentarily eclipsing the pain. The canine unit is equipped with a bailout system, a remote popper on the officer's belt that can open the dog's door from a distance. It's a last-ditch tool for when an officer is down or separated from the vehicle. In the chaos of the first shot, Miller hadn't even thought of it. His focus had been on survival. Now, it's his only play. He can hear Riggs barking frantically from inside the cruiser, a sound of rage and desperation. The dog knows his partner is in trouble. He can smell the blood, hear the gunfire. The shooter, emboldened by Miller's lack of movement, steps out from behind the sedan again, raising his weapon for a more deliberate shot. Miller knows he won't survive another hit. His left arm is useless, his shooting position is compromised, and his vision is starting to swim. As the dark figure brings his pistol to bear, Miller's thumb finds the small round button on his duty belt. He presses it. The sound of the canine door solenoid popping open is almost lost in the tension, but the result is anything but subtle. The back door of the patrol car flies open, and Riggs explodes out of it like a cannonball. He is a 75-pound blur of black fur and teeth, a missile of focused fury. He doesn't hesitate, he doesn't slow down. He sees the threat, the figure standing over his partner, and his whole world narrows to a single objective. The shooter, completely surprised by this new fast-moving threat, pivots towards the dog. It's the moment of hesitation Miller desperately needed. The man has time for one panic shot at the charging animal, a shot that goes wide. In the next instant, Riggs is airborne. He launches himself, clearing the last few feet of ground in a breathtaking leap, and collides with the shooter's chest. The impact is brutal. The man stumbles backward with a grunt, his arms flailing as he tries to fight off the snarling, snapping animal now latched onto his gun arm. The quiet roadside has erupted into a primeval scene of violence, a chaotic ballet of man against dog, illuminated by the relentless, indifferent strobes of the police cruiser. The odds have just changed. The shooter shrieks, a raw, high-pitched sound of surprise and pain that is abruptly cut off as he topples backward onto the asphalt. Riggs is a force of nature, a whirlwind of trained aggression latched onto the man's arm. The pistol skitters across the gravel, spinning out of reach. This isn't a dog bite, it's a tactical neutralization. Canines trained for patrol and apprehension work are taught to bite and hold, using their powerful jaws and body weight to incapacitate a suspect, and, crucially, to disarm them. The dog's grip on the shooter's forearm is a vice, shaking his head side to side, not out of wild fury, but as a trained technique to maintain his grip and unbalance his opponent. This ferocious loyalty creates the window Miller needs. Adrenaline surges through him, a potent cocktail that temporarily numbs the searing pain in his shoulder. He forces himself up onto one knee, his own pistol held tight in his right hand. He has a clear shot. But it's not that simple. Riggs and the shooter are a tangled, thrashing mass on the ground. A stray round could easily hit his partner. It's a patrol officer's nightmare scenario, a situation that has led to countless tragic outcomes and heated legal debates. The law generally permits the use of deadly force to protect an officer or a third party from imminent death or serious bodily harm. But does that third party include a canine? Legally, a police dog is often classified as equipment, as property of the department. This has led to some controversial court rulings where harming a police canine is prosecuted less severely than harming a human officer. Yet for the handler on the ground, that equipment is a living, breathing partner.
Miller holds his fire, his sights tracking the struggle. He shouts, his voice raw, "Get the dog off me!" The shooter is screaming now, his other hand beating uselessly at Riggs' head. Riggs, for his part, ignores the blows, his focus absolute. He is performing the task he was born and bred and trained to do. Miller sees his opening. The shooter, in a desperate attempt to dislodge the dog, rolls onto his side, exposing his torso for a brief, clear moment. Miller doesn't hesitate. He takes the shot. The crack of his pistol is sharp and final. The shooter's body goes rigid and then slumps to the ground. The fight drains out of him instantly. Riggs, sensing the sudden stillness of his target, immediately releases his grip. He stands over the downed man, panting heavily, his fur bristling, a low growl still rumbling in his chest. He looks back at Miller as if for confirmation. "Good boy, Riggs," Miller gasps, the words catching in his throat. "Good boy." He stumbles to his feet, his world swaying precariously. He keeps his weapon trained on the downed shooter as he approaches. He kicks the man's discarded pistol further away. There's no movement. The threat is over. He can hear the distant, rising siren of his backup, a welcome sound that now seems to be coming from the end of a long tunnel. He finally allows himself to look at Riggs, and his heart plummets. There's blood on the dog's side, a dark, wet patch matting the thick fur just behind his ribs. The shooter's one wild shot at the charging dog wasn't a complete miss after all. It had grazed him, tearing a furrow along his flank. He doesn't seem to notice. He's still in work mode, alert and focused, his tail held high. But as the adrenaline of the fight begins to fade, he gives a small whimper, and his back leg buckles slightly. He's hurt. The hero of the night is wounded. This is the terrible inherent irony of the canine partner's role. They are sent into harm's way, celebrated for their bravery, but their sacrifice is often seen through a different, less urgent lens than that of their human counterparts. Miller holsters his weapon and kneels beside his partner, his own pain forgotten. "Easy, boy, easy." He runs a trembling hand over the dog's head, then gently probes the wound. It's a deep gash, bleeding freely, but it looks like a through-and-through graze. The bullet didn't lodge in his body. He's lucky. They're both lucky. Just then, the second patrol car screams onto the scene, its headlights washing over the tableau of violence and its aftermath. Two deputies spill out, guns drawn, their faces etched with alarm as they take in the scene. Miller, bleeding and swaying on his feet, a downed shooter and a wounded canine standing guard. As his colleagues rush to secure the scene and call for medics, Miller's mind circles back to the man in his car, Price, the driver, the decoy. He leans against the sedan for support, the cool metal a stark contrast to the fire in his shoulder. He looks from his bleeding partner to the dead shooter and then to the terrified man in the back of his car. The silence that has fallen is heavier than the noise that preceded it. The immediate danger is over, but the story is just beginning. The shootout on this lonely highway wasn't the end of a crime. It was the violent unraveling of a much larger and much more frightening conspiracy.
The aftermath is a controlled chaos of procedure and protocol. Paramedics arrive, their first priority being Officer Miller. Despite his protests to check on Riggs first, they cut away his blood-soaked uniform, assess the wound, and declare it a clean shot through the fleshy part of the shoulder. Painful, debilitating, but not life-threatening. The vest did its job. As they load him into the ambulance, another deputy, a fellow canine handler, is already tending to Riggs, applying pressure to the gash on his side and speaking to him in low, calming tones. A call has been made to the department's on-call veterinarian, who is en route to the county animal hospital. From the back of the ambulance, Miller watches his world being sectioned off with yellow tape. Detectives have arrived, their unmarked sedans pulling up quietly. They move with a grim purpose, their faces illuminated by the harsh white light of portable scene lamps that have replaced the frantic strobes. The scene is now a giant, outdoor evidence locker. Every casing, every bloodstain, every tire track is a piece of a puzzle they must now assemble. The driver, John Price, is being led from the back of Miller's cruiser. His composure is completely shattered. He's weeping, rambling, a man whose carefully constructed reality has been demolished. He's no longer a suspect in a traffic stop. He's the sole surviving link to a professional killer and a conspiracy. His value has skyrocketed. The interrogation to come will be a masterclass in psychological pressure. Detectives will use the good cop, bad cop routine, but it will be amplified by the very real fact that Price's cooperation is likely the only thing standing between him and a life sentence for felony murder. Under the felony murder rule, a person can be convicted of murder if someone dies during the commission of a dangerous felony they were involved in, even if they didn't pull the trigger themselves. The shootout that killed the hidden assailant and injured an officer absolutely qualifies. Price is in a world of trouble, and he knows it. Investigators begin their methodical search of the sedan. The hidden compartment is now the centerpiece of the investigation. They photograph it from every angle before a technician carefully removes the contents: the modified Glock, the suppressor, the high-capacity magazine, the burner phones, the GPS unit. Each item is bagged and tagged. It's the burner phones that hold the most promise. While designed for anonymity, they are not infallible. Cell tower data can triangulate their location history, and forensic analysis might recover deleted texts or call logs. It's a slow, painstaking process. An odd, almost trivial detail emerges from the shooter's pockets. Alongside a fake ID and a roll of cash, detectives find a single, pristine casino chip from one of the major Las Vegas resorts. It's for a denomination of $5,000. It's clean, almost new. It's an unusual item for a man kitted out for a roadside execution to be carrying. Is it a payment, a trophy from a past job, or a calling card, a message to be found? This single chip adds another layer of intrigue, suggesting the conspiracy extends into the glittering, high-stakes world of Vegas casinos, a world notorious for its cash transactions and discreet security. As the hours crawl by, a preliminary profile of the dead shooter begins to form from the fake ID and fingerprints. No immediate matches in any criminal database. He's a ghost, a professional who operated off the grid. This lack of identity is itself a clue, pointing to a highly sophisticated and well-funded organization. This wasn't a crime of passion or a drug deal gone wrong. It was cold, calculated business. The prevailing theory among the detectives on scene is that Miller stumbled into a cleanup operation. The hitman had just completed a job, and Price, the driver, was his extraction and disposal expert. The kit in the car, the weapon, the untraceable phones was to be used and then discarded, the vehicle itself likely to be torched in the desert, leaving no trace. The chemical smell was from Price's work cleaning the scene or the shooter post-assassination. Miller's routine traffic stop was an unforeseen complication that forced their hand. They decided to eliminate the threat, turning their well-oiled plan into a desperate, bloody improvisation. But there's another theory, a darker one that a few of the more seasoned detectives whisper about. What if the stop wasn't a complication? Remember the bait, the broken taillight on a car driving the perfect speed limit? What if the target wasn't some unknown person in a city hours away? What if the target was law enforcement itself? Anti-government extremist groups have been known to plan targeted assassinations of police officers to sow chaos and fear. In this scenario, the hitman kit wasn't for a previous job, it was for the next one. Miller was supposed to be the first victim, his own weapon potentially to be used in a future crime to misdirect the investigation. It's a chilling thought that reframes the entire encounter, and it's a theory that remains an open and unresolved debate within the department for years to come. Lying in the back of the ambulance, the adrenaline finally giving way to a bone-deep exhaustion and a throbbing wave of pain, Miller thinks of Riggs. The dog's bravery, his unwavering loyalty, didn't just save his life, it ripped the veil off a plot that would have otherwise vanished into the desert night. The scars on his shoulder will heal. The psychological wounds will take longer. But the deepest mark left by this night is one of profound gratitude for the silent, steadfast partner who charged into the darkness without a moment's hesitation. The bond between a handler and his canine is forged in countless hours of training, but it's tempered into something unbreakable in moments like these. It's a partnership that transcends species, a loyalty paid for in courage and, tonight, in blood. The hum of the hospital fan is a poor substitute for the familiar drone of his patrol car engine. But for now, it is the sound of safety, of survival. The scars you carry are a testament not just to the dangers you faced, but to the moments you endured and overcame them. For Officer Miller, the physical scar on his shoulder would always be a reminder of the night the silence of the desert was broken by gunfire. For Riggs, whose wound was stitched and healing, the scar beneath his fur was a badge of honor, a mark of fierce and unflinching loyalty. The case would unfold over many months, the threads of conspiracy leading from that lonely stretch of highway into the shadowed corners of organized crime. But the heart of the story will always remain there, on that gravel shoulder, in the flashing lights. A story of a routine stop that was anything but, and the incredible bond that turned the tide. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. These stories of bravery and the razor's edge between order and chaos are a reminder of the unseen battles fought every day. If you found value in this narrative, a simple like or a comment goes a long way in supporting what I do. Sharing the video helps our community grow, bringing these incredible stories to more people who appreciate them. I look forward to our next journey together, to another night where we can dim the lights and explore the shadows. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.